Hey, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. Got a real special guest today. 25 years in the business, coming up on 26. Number two Coldwell Banker agent in the world. He has sold a ton of homes, been a coach, all kinds of stuff. We're here with Jay Kinder. Stick around. It's going to be good. Good morning, Jay.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Man, couldn't be better.
Good. It is good to see you. You're down there in Puerto Rico.
Yes,
It's nice
I
and
am.
warm and sunny, and yeah, you're wearing your flip-flops and everything else.
All day, every day.
I'm in Colorado, and we're having a snowstorm.
Yeah,
So.
that's all right. You can get a little snow skiing in or something.
Yeah, there you go. So, man, I appreciate being on here. You've got an amazing story. I first met you. I don't know if you remember this. I met you back in 2002.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah.
I just got my license. I got licensed January 2002. Went to Phoenix, the JW Marriott, for a conference over there, and you were on stage speaking. And I'm like, man, who's this young guy? Whatever. I'm like, I want to be like him.
I don't know.
You've been in the business for a while. So tell me your story. You got in 97, right? You started.
Yeah, 97 into 97. I was 19 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. Didn't know what I didn't know. And I remember seeing a guy get a check. I was mowing my dad's rental properties for him. And I was going to a little university there, Cameron University. And I went in to get paid one day, and this guy was getting a check for like $5,000. And I was like, man, what did he do exactly this week? Doesn't look like he's even sweating. That was like, he sold a house over on such and such. And I was like, he made that much money? So maybe I need to look at this real estate thing. Maybe worth my time. And so I took the class and, was fortunate enough to, struggled like everybody else, I think, when you first get in, trying to figure out how to get customers, especially since, most of the people that were my age were still doing keg stands. There was not a sphere of influence, so to speak. So I had to learn how to, turn strangers into customers and slowly started to figure that out and had some success.
Right. Yeah, it was in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
right?
Lawton, Oklahoma. Yep.
Yeah. How big is Lawton?
It's about 100,000 people.
About 100,000? Okay.
Yeah.
And your dad had been in the business for a while, right? I mean, he had rental property. Yeah. Was he a realtor or was he just
He was, but he mainly was property management. So I didn't grow up with him, going and showing properties and taking listings and things like that. He was primarily, doing property management. And then when he bought the Coldwell Banker in 97, he kind of inherited, the agents and the sales side of it. And so, that's kind of when I jumped in and started learning from, some of the other agents in the office and going to events and things of that nature. But yeah.
Right. Okay. A little more money there than mowing the yards.
Yeah, a lot more. Quite a bit more.
So there you go. What was it like at the beginning? I mean, did you didn't get off to a real quick start, but how did you figure it out? What was it like at the beginning?
Yeah. The first deal that I ever had, the top agent in the office tried to steal it from me. I learned real quickly that it was kind of a dog eat dog world. Even in my own dad's office, this guy was still trying to steal my client. He was successful at it too. He knew them apparently. And, I picked them up at an open house or something. I can't remember where, but so I lost that first deal. And then, I finally put one under contract and it was a good feeling, but, I didn't know what the next steps were. How am I going to get customers? So I did, open houses every Sunday. I would list anything anybody would list. I would take any listing and did a lot of open houses and then started going to events pretty early. So I was fortunate enough to go to a Dale Carnegie event. It was like a 6-week program. And that really helped me kind of refine, kind of my people skills a little bit. And then not long after that, I went to this training called, it was Bruce Tanner was the guy. I don't even know it was the National Sales Institute or something like that. Okay. And kind of really refined kind of my whole, sales pitch, my presentation and my sales skills. And that's what really helped me because then I started going after FSBOs, expireds, and, finally had some success. And then I was like, okay, I can do this, And I think my first year I sold 22 houses, then I sold 39, and it was like 71, and then 100 and something, then 200 and something, and then on up to 500 plus homes a year. But yeah, it was, it wasn't easy. That's for sure. I think part of the reason I ended up, coaching was because of how challenging it was to figure it out. And that I didn't feel like there was anybody really teaching people how to build a business. It was just, a little bit of tips here, tips there. Some of these guys were teaching referral by referral only. Some people were teaching prospecting, like Mike Ferry and some of that stuff and stuff, but nobody was teaching you all of it. So you had to go to all these different events, pay all these different people, and still had to go back and figure it all out. And so, that was, it was a fun ride, for sure. But, we felt like, we could help agents, have more success faster. And, obviously we get to do that now every day.
Yeah, which is awesome. And obviously, personal development is big. For you. I mean, you talked about that, just, honing in on your skills and stuff. I mean, what would you say to some of the newer agents out there? I mean, I hadn't really never done much of that either until I remember the first day I got my license. I go into my first office. Good friend of mine owned the brokerage, didn't interview anywhere else. And day one, he takes me upstairs in this office, whatever, and he hands me a book, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
I brought it home and it sat on the shelf for a couple, 2-3 years.
Yeah.
What's this thing? Whatever, it had a good title, but I'm like, but again, I'm busy doing all this stuff. And I finally realized, like, wow, that is so key. I've got to work stuff. How big is that?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, I think if I'm writing a book on how to do anything, I'm starting with chapter 1 as mindset every time. Like it's absolutely everything. And again, maybe, and I probably was not voted most likely to ever read a book coming out of high school, but fortunately, How to Win Friends and Influence People through the Dale Carnegie course and Think and Grow Rich were the first 2 books I ever read. And man, it was life changing. I've read that book many times since then. But it's your mindset, especially in real estate. I mean, this is not an easy, it's not an easy game to just come in and dominate and win. And so you better have. At least better have the the upstairs game dialed in, or you're gonna have a hard time.
Right, for sure. Well, all these books over here,
stacking
up. Whatever I read all the time. It's so key to this day. I mean, been in the business now 20 some years. What so at what point? When did you hit? Because I know again at some point you were the number 2 Coldwell Banker agent in the world, right?
I think I was 20. I was 27 or 28, and I was number 2 in the world. Ironically, one of my good friends and mentors was Brian Moses, who was number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker as well, which I always jokingly say, be careful who your mentor is, because I never made it to number 1, and neither did he. We both got beat by the same girl every year. It was Jean Shine in Killeen, Texas. She's awesome. But that's, it was, I think I was 27 or 28 whenever I hit number 2 in the world. I was in the top 10 in the world for years and years in a row. And then I went independent. In 2010, I think it was 2010 or 11. And really just got, I was paying, I think I paid Coldwell Banker over $100,000 that year. And it was just like the math. I was doing the math. My dad wanted to retire. He wanted to sell me the business. I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, man, I don't think I can make this work, with how much money was being paid in. And so I had to let my dad know that his retirement strategy as his only child was not going to be the case. And luckily he was cool about it. And, I opened up an independent brokerage right next door to his office, and I think he spent more time in our office than he did in his own. But
right.
But so it was a good run up, right? I think the year I did 233 transactions, and this was really kind of at the crux of everything I teach is around your dollar value per hour. What is the value of the work you're doing, and time management was always. There's a book by Dan Kennedy, No BS Time Management, that was really timely for me. Another book, Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine, was another book that was really helpful for me. But getting things off your plate that are low productive activities and doing the things that are high productive activities is how you do it. And you got to know the difference between the two, and you got to get things off your plate. And so when I did 233 transactions, I had 4 admin staff and no buyer's agents. That November, I hired 3 buyer's agents all at one time. And that might have been the year we met, actually. Now I think about it, it was either 02, maybe it might have been 03. Okay. But that was, I was spending my time with people, either showing houses or I was face-to-face on listing appointments and everything else. And, most of that stuff I wasn't any good at anyways, right? The paperwork and, all the other things that you have to do, to complete the transaction. But I just learned that, that if I don't change the outcome of whatever's being done, then it's probably something I shouldn't be doing. And started really delegating, and then built a team around me. Had as many as 20 agents at one point. that wasn't also not the answer. I'd rather have a handful of really good agents than 20 ever. That was the kind of the journey I went on.
Was it at Coldwell Banker that you built a team?
Yeah.
You built a team there and then shifted off to do the independent brokerage. Okay. Which is kind of the progression a lot of agents.
Yeah.
Sort of the ladder that agents tend to take it once they get going. I built a team. I never wanted a brokerage. That was for me. I just never wanted the liability. But I remember when I left, I was at Keller Williams from 2005 to 2010. And we did very well. We had a team. We had the number one team. I'm in Colorado Springs for the 5 years I was there. And I remember leaving there. And again, same thing, no issues with Keller Williams, but not paying anywhere close to what you were paying. But it was still, whatever, $105,000 after 5 years that I had paid them. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not using any of their stuff. I had all my own tools, all my own websites, all my own systems. And I'm like, what am I getting for my money? Like, a nice business card, I guess. I don't know, good logo. I could put on, I think there's got to be a better way to do it. So that's the reason I've moved every time. It made more financial sense for me. For myself, for my family, for my future. You got to think about that stuff. So, whatever. So you did the independent brokerage. That was the next step for you.
Yeah.
You had that for how many years, the brokerage?
So 2011 till actually, I think I sold it before 2016 when we started another brokerage, Michael, Reese, and I, in Dallas, but we started that in 2016 and moved over in 2017 to eXp. Okay. I think I sold my team in Lawton to a couple of guys that were with me from the very beginning in probably 2015, I want to say 2014 or 15. I sold the company to them. Yeah.
What were the biggest challenges you went through starting a brokerage? There's going to be people watching this, and they're thinking that's the step. Which again, I'm not down on that. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. That's awesome.
Well, yeah.
What were the positives of it? Let me ask you this: what were the positives?
Yeah, the positives. I was worried that when I went independent that I was going to lose business somehow because I'd been Coldwell Banker for so long, and that definitely wasn't the case. Like it didn't miss a beat. Like everything that could have possibly went well is like we didn't even change. It was like nothing really changed. Yeah. And so it was a good experience. Where I had the most struggle was going through 07 and 08 was definitely was painful. Major drop in the marketplace. You just couldn't have. I tried to work my way through that. Outwork. But my lesson was the lesson I walked out of 07, 08. It took me till about 2009 or 10 to like get back to where I was almost like I had that much of a setback financially. I had to get back into production. I'd stepped out of production. I got to go get back into production again, which that's like getting let out of jail for the weekend and having to go back on Monday. That's the last thing you want to do if you've ever stepped out of production. Yeah. And, I really enjoyed that. And I was spending more of the time on the coaching and training stuff that we were doing. And that was really my passion. I really loved helping agents. I really didn't care about, going and selling another house personally. So, that was, trying to step out of production was the hardest thing. And the first time I did it, it didn't work. I got thrown back into production. The second time it didn't work, I got thrown back into production. And finally, I had the right mentor in 08 or 09. I read a book called Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits, which was, my native genius is not the accounting side of things. I don't make it rain, but that wasn't what that part of the business wasn't my strength. And so, I had to learn, the financials and how to really run it like a business. And ultimately, got the business running at 22% pre-tax profit without me in it. And, that was a huge win because, I think when we first started, it was like negative 3% profit without me in it. And so we figured out how to run it lean and mean and make it make some money. But it was in Lawton, Oklahoma, average sale price $135,000. So like we really had to lean it. We had to be running a lean machine in order for us to produce the way we were. Yeah. And so that was the painfulest part of that whole time period. It was still fun.
That seems to be pretty common with. I mean, Aaron Ken.
Yeah,
good buddy of mine. I've known Aaron now for a long time, and Aaron with his own brokerage. I mean, when he ran the numbers and took his personal production out, they were completely upside down.
Right.
And it's just like it got to a point. It's like, okay, again, he moved his whole brokerage over here to eXp, a few years ago. But that seems to be the case for a lot of broker owners, independents. It's like if they're not actively in there doing the stuff, it's like you're upside down. In the numbers. I think most people. It can be a challenge. You weren't as leveraged as you wanted to be.
No,
with your
no,
brokerage?
no. There was always that threat that, I'm either gonna get a check or I'm writing a check, and I don't know which one it's gonna be this month. And going into winter months, you can only lean out so much, right? Where you can't just let go of everybody, and but there's half of the sales in most markets in the country, half of the sales in the wintertime that there are in the summertime, and so you can be doing really well, but then you have that seasonality that always kicks in. And with you not in production, you're not really able to move the needle as well, and it certainly makes that a challenge to make sure that you're net profit at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, and it takes me back to 2008. I remember with my team, it's like all of a sudden we go from 20 closings a month to 2.
Yeah.
And the bills don't go away. I still got 3 people on staff. I got to pay them every 2 weeks. I still got all my marketing costs, which go up because I'm doing everything I can to find more business for my team. I mean, it's like, I still got to pay my bills. I mean, it was brutal, so all those fixed costs and stuff. I would not want to be an independent broker owner right now in terms of just
especially not
market.
Right now.
Yeah.
Not now. This is not the time you want to be doing that, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, for sure. So you see it took you the 3rd time you saw eXp.
Yeah. Seemed like that's a common thread too.
Yeah.
What
was it like? I mean, when you first saw it, I mean, it obviously didn't click in the first couple times, where the 3rd time it made sense.
I got pretty excited about it the 2nd time. The first time that I heard about it, I just didn't know the guy. I didn't know anything about the model. I didn't watch any, I didn't do any research or watch any videos or anything like that. And so I was just like, all right, whatever, dude. Like, my biggest takeaway was like, this dude will not shut up about the stock. And so for me, we had started a brokerage, and we were having quite a bit of success in growing it. And we were already in Texas and also in Georgia. And we were running into the challenges of trying to scale something across multiple states. That's a whole nother ball game, by the way. The number of entities and legal structure and all the things that we had to set up for mortgage, title, all this, it was super complex. And so and looking at the model the second go around, I listened to it was a webinar somebody had done, and actually a good friend of mine that's not at eXp, it was a client of ours for a long time. He said, hey man, you should look at this. It looks kind of like what y'all are trying to do. And so I looked at it and I was like, man, that sounds pretty dang good. And I liked what I saw, but it wasn't the right timing, right? It's like it wasn't a good time for us to try to pivot from what we were doing. And so the 3rd go around, it was Al Stasek, who was also one of our coaches in our coaching company and a longtime friend and client. And he said, man, look at this for me and just tell me, because he had just lost his 2 top agents again. You go through that cycle where you lose your top producers. That's always painful. Yeah. And so he was just, we were in every mastermind, we had all the top agents that I know of and that we've ever coached or worked with. We all had the same problem. It was recruiting and retention was always, that topic, and how do we get more listings was always the things that we were talking about. Yeah. And we're just trying to figure out how do you create a model where people don't want to leave, like they never want to leave. And that was what we were trying to figure out, and we hadn't figured it out. And when I looked at the eXp model that time, I was like, man, if all of this is true, this might be the most brilliant model I've ever seen. And I couldn't ignore that. You can't ignore it. Once you really understand and see it, you really can't ignore it anymore. And so I literally flew to an event that was eXpCon. I think it was somewhere in Florida that year. Okay. And it was and I met Glenn, the leadership team, Jason Gessing, Gene, Frederick. Brent Gove showed me around. I've known Brent since back in the day when we met at the events that we used to go to Proctor's. So I've known Brent forever. And I remember walking into the room, and it felt like one of our events that we used to do, our Exponential Growth Summit. It felt really similar to that. And then I started seeing some familiar faces, Jeff Willems, and some of these guys that I've known for a while. And I'm like, this is interesting. This has a different feel to it. And you could kind of feel the excitement. It was palatable. And so they showed up on the screen, the 5,000 agents that they just hit or whatever. And we went back and we went all in, and that made our announcement, moved our brokerage over, and then started having conversations where everybody didn't know, nobody knew what eXp was. And if you pulled it up in your MLS, there was nobody that was producing, any real production. And so we overcome all those challenges and life-changing decision. This the best business decision I've ever made.
Without question. I know when I looked at it, it'll be 5 years in February that my wife and I made the move over here. And I remember when I looked at it and started, it took me about a week. I mean, I did my due diligence, and I remember when Sean called me, Sean Stewart called me, hey, you need to look at this. And I'm like, been there, done that. Like, the big companies, I'll look. I've always been open to looking. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But there's no way I'm moving. And a week later we moved because it just made too much sense. But one of the things that happened too, I started digging in and I'm looking, I'm like, wait, again, all these names that you mentioned. I mean, I know all these guys. Like, and again, you become who you hang around. I'm like, wait, Jay's there and Jeff is there and Brent's there. And, Rob Flick, I've known Rob Flick for 15 years. I mean, like all these guys are there. Like, okay, like I'm in,
Sorry, you can't ignore it after a certain point.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I think, for me, and I'm sure you had probably a similar kind of a process that you went through is like, I felt like I had to get my ego out of the way. I had to understand I'm not stopping what I'm doing. I'm only just using this platform to do what I've been trying to do, which we had a vision of 3NAEA of 2,000 partners by December 27th, 2024. That was the 10-year vision we set. We actually said it was 8-year vision. We set it in 2016 when we started the brokerage. Yeah. And, now I'm at, 9,000 something agents, right? And it's 2022 still, so like, was this a better model to build this on? Absolutely it was. Certainly grew a lot faster than we were ever going to anticipate growing. So pretty cool to have that experience. But my ego was definitely the thing that would have kept me from doing it. Nothing else. The math, everything made sense. Yeah. But I think, and at least initially, I think a lot of people don't look at it because they can't see themselves joining a brokerage, right? Especially if you're independent. You're like, man, why would I ever pay somebody else again? And that's the thing that they miss is that, me and you ain't paying to be here. They're paying us to be here. And, there's more opportunity, being at eXp than what you could create for yourself. And until you can, until you get past that part of the ego, you kind of don't know what you don't know. But yeah, that's what it took for me to finally make the jump.
It's huge for sure. What's been one or two of the biggest surprises for you coming over here that you didn't expect when you joined?
I would say this. I hoped that the leadership was going to be what I thought it was, and I thought they were great leaders and great people, and they had the ability. But to me, I'm fascinated with how the heck they kept the wheels between the ditches for the last 5 years during all this growth. I mean, it's just. Yeah. It's fascinating. It would be real easy to mess it up. And I've just watched leadership decisions, replacing key leaders in the organization at the right times. Just being agile, like Glenn says, and navigating this growth and there's been little hiccups and problems along the way, but watching how quickly that they fix them. And how fast they make decisions. And it's just that part to me is fascinating because, having run a small company and having 50 employees, it's a lot, and 2,000 employees deep or however, how many we're at now, like I can't even fathom, the things the leadership, team has to consider and all of that process. So like that to me is always the fascinating thing just from an operational standpoint is how well they've done at executing on things. And it's fun to watch from the inside and not have to be in that decision-making seat.
Exactly. I could be on the beach.
Yeah.
And hear about, no, it's awesome. I think one of the things for me, was the collaboration. I mean, I've been very surprised, being a virtual brokerage, quote unquote. I just figured, I'd worked from home since 2009. So that part wasn't a big deal for me, but but I've got more relationships with agents now than I've had in my entire 21 years of doing this. Yep. And I know that doesn't make sense when it's a virtual brokerage, but it's just, the way we all get together, a couple times a year, sometimes more, whatever. Yep. And then all the virtual stuff works. I mean, it's just
better. Yeah.
Oh, it's just, I mean, it just is like,
Yeah, I think that's something that most people don't get till they're on the inside. You can't really make it palatable where you can really feel it and understand it, but communication just happens faster here, right? Like, you jump into workplace into your state group and ask a question and get an answer instantly. Little things like that just, that are just not how we used to communicate. It's just, it certainly is a better way of doing business, and I think that's hard for people to get until they actually experience it.
Right, for sure. Let me ask you this real quick, and we'll start wrapping things up here. I appreciate your time. Yeah, man. What's that saying? Imitation is the highest form of flattery or something like that, the highest level of flattery. I mean, we're starting to see, there are other brokerages coming out, whatever, that are trying to duplicate this model, or they're starting to, some brokers starting to give out stock, things like that, whatever, which, I get all that. What are your thoughts on some of that? Like, I've seen it, I've been hit. I've been approached.
Oh,
been approached by some of these other companies and stuff, which is fine. I'm like, there's plenty of room to go around, but I'm just like, I feel like we got a 13-year head start.
Right.
For one thing, and what are your thoughts on some of this?
I definitely have some thoughts about this topic for sure.
Talk about that for a little bit.
The first thing that, I had a mentor. In fact, he just joined us at eXp. I can't announce it just yet, I don't think, but this guy is one of the most brilliant guys I've ever had as a mentor.
Sure.
And he used to say, innovation is going to come from outside the industry. It's not going to be from Remax or Keller Williams or these companies that are kind of stuck in their models. And they have tried to evolve. Bless their hearts. Gary Keller's tried to figure out a way to revamp what he's got to compete with us, and he just can't. And so, the new companies that are coming up, they're all going to have stock. They're all going to have revenue share. That's the new normal. And so, there's going to be competitors. The thing that I think it makes us extremely unique, but besides the fact that, we're 85,000 agents deep and we're built around collaboration. And so there's nothing that we couldn't help somebody with, no matter what where they're at in their business and what they're trying to accomplish. There's just so much talent, and we all really are working together. So there's, having that, and, these other companies starting off without having that level of talent all around you. I think that's going to be difficult. And then the fact that, I think this is the most fascinating thing is that, Glenn bootstrapped this whole damn thing. And he maintains, and the agents and the employees and Glenn and ownership is it's in his hands. It's not in the hands of investors. And, I don't know how long these companies, especially going into a downturn, are going to be able to sustain, not making money and then having to raise capital on a model that's not profitable. So they're probably going to have to change their business models along the way, which it was always a fear I had too. But because it's not, Glenn was the one that made the decision. He's the one that invited us in, all the leaders in the company in, to Washington to look at what things we could do to make sure we were sustainable, which we all had, an interest in, right? I mean, this is the golden goose here. It's got to be sustainable. What can we do to make sure it is sustainable? And Glenn listened to us. Like, he actually took our advice that we all collectively had come up with that we thought was the best decision, compared to what he was originally thinking when he came into the meeting. And I thought that was fascinating, because he certainly didn't have to do that. And it's his company, so he could have changed whatever he wanted to change, but he really did listen. And that's not going to be the case for these companies. When they have to make a change, it's going to come down from the board of directors. And the leadership could be great, but at the same time, they're not really calling the shots. And so I think that's going to be a story to be told, in the future. Some of but they're all trying to do it also on less company dollars. So that's a big concern if I was there, because if the company can't make money, it won't be the first time a company's gone under in real estate, and they have done that in the past. And in fact, most of the time, Help You Sell.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Help You Sell had, I can't remember how many franchise locations they had. It was a lot. It was in the thousands, and they went out of business in 2008 or 9, I think it was. Okay. And so in the downturn, which is similar to kind of what we're, kind of feeling right now, the companies that try to operate on the least company dollar are the ones that struggle the most, and some of them don't make it. And so, there's that's got to be a concern if you're looking at, some of these other companies that are trying to pop up. Are they going to be able to do what we've been able to do, on, with a huge cash balance, with no debt, owning our own technology, all of those things, are they going to be able to survive, or are they going to have to dramatically change their model? I think I would say that not all of them are going to make it, and certainly we're in a better position than all of them.
For sure. Well, I think, you start looking, okay, here's a signing bonus. Here's all these things. You're writing these big checks to get these big agents, all that stuff. Like, I don't know. I hate all that stuff. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like, if your value proposition is, I got to pay you to come over here and write you a big check. That's not a value proposition.
Yeah. I think agents,
we just don't need it. We've never done it, And I love the fact that there's not one agent here. You came over here on an 80-20 split with a $16,000 cap, just like me, just like the brand new agent that just got licensed yesterday. I mean, we're all in the same boat. And I love that about this. No special favors going on.
No. And, the thing about it, especially being here as long as we have, and, I get to look at a lot of different independent contractor agreements, and, unfortunately, most agents don't read those, especially if you're kind of getting in and you're new and you don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you want to really know what the company's objectives are, read the independent contractor agreement, because that's going to tell you a lot about what happens when you do decide to leave. And, that's, I love, our philosophy at eXp, if you leave, take everything you got with you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously you have your vested stock and all that kind of stuff, but, but there's one of these companies, I won't even mention the name, but they take 100% of everything under contract when you leave, all of it. So if you leave, you got to walk away from everything you have under contract, every listing. It just fascinates me that's the strategy that these old companies still have. It's just, and that's where I think, some of these other companies that are kind of copycatting us may actually make it. We're obviously going to continue to grow leaps and bounds, but the ones that I'm watching, the Realty or whatever it's called now, Anywhere or Nowhere, whatever it is, that they came up with, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle for sure, because they really don't have the ability to compete with even anywhere close to compete with what agents can get at eXp. And so it's fascinating to watch. We'll see. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of these bigger brands that really continue to shrink. And, obviously more market share for us and companies that are like us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've seen a couple, they got, it's a lower split, it's a lower cap, all that kind of stuff. But, as you grow that, and you got to grow staff to support all that. How do you pay that staff? You get the model. I've looked at a couple just briefly, but again, they're not sustainable. You've got to change the model. You've got to change the splits with the agents or something. I mean, we're seeing it now with Compass. I mean, it's like, how many of those agents are going to say, well, forget that, I'm out, whatever.
Yeah. Compass is the most expensive brokerage on the planet. I mean, like it amazes me. If they'd have gave me that much money to build a brokerage, I think I could have done a lot better. But it was fascinating to watch, but yeah, man, they're in really bad shape.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not here to bash other companies and stuff. They can all do whatever they want to do. I feel so blessed to be here, and I feel so grateful to be here. I feel very protected here. Again, as the market shifts and the way that collaboration goes on amongst you bring the top agents together and how they mastermind on that. And that I didn't know that about that. You guys being up there in Washington and Glenn, actually listening to what you guys are all saying. It's like, but again, that's so powerful when you've got that kind of collaboration going on with the top agents. I feel like, we're all in a good spot here. Like as the market shifts, we'll shift with it. And as whatever, and we're going down that path in a good way.
It's
exciting to be here.
Another example too, right? So like, when the market shifts, you got to change things you're doing in marketing. Some things that were working are not working, and I think some agents have started experiencing that. So we've been testing all these different ideas and different Facebook type strategies and stuff like that, and we've got one that's just working really, really well. And so like we're pushing that out to everybody, right? Like we want to teach everybody in the whole company how to do it. Why? Because we make money when you make money. And so like that element, that financial alignment piece is what really is going to protect us forever, because there's no time that I'm ever not going to wake up thinking, how can I help my agents produce more? And that kind of collaboration, I don't think happens the same at most companies. No. And so, if you want to succeed, you got to be around the right people. And I think that we have the best of the best in the industry.
Yeah. People are sharing everything here at a level that I've never seen before. I remember when I was at Keller Williams, I trained there probably 10 times. I loved doing it, getting out there. But I remember where I was at and they wanted me to, I'm paying $20,000 a year to be part of a coaching program and come in here and teach all the agents all the stuff you're doing.
Right.
Heck no. I'm like, they can pay $20,000, whatever. Right. I'm training and I am training my competition. That's the truth of it. Especially right now when listings are like, at a premium. It's like, I'm not going to give my listing presentation away to everybody. Yeah. Now here I'll do it all. Because the better we all do, the better the company does, the better our stock does. It's a completely different mindset being a completely different model that just hasn't existed before. So, it's not just another model. I love what we're doing. So, any last thing you want to share before we wrap it up, man?
I appreciate you having me on.
I
appreciate you having me on. It's always good to connect and share. You never know who's listening, and maybe it listens for the right, this time the message hits or strikes home. But if you're out there, you're struggling and you want to do better, man, this is something you should be looking at. That's for sure.
definitely. At least look. Doesn't hurt to look. It's free to look.
Yep.
You can always leave. They'll take you back where you came from. You know,
Right.
and that's what, when I saw this, I'm like, God, what if this works? What if this does what I think it could do? I'm like, what do I have to lose? It looks like I have a lot to gain. You know? And if it doesn't work, I'll go back. You know, whatever. I'll negotiate a better deal going back. You know? But I'm like, I have nothing to lose. And man, it's like, you know, oh my goodness, it's like. Sometimes I do. I pinch myself sometimes. I was just telling you before we got on here, my wife and I just got back from Italy for 2 weeks, and it's allowing us to do things that we just weren't able to do. I mean, I mean, whatever, the revenue share is just opening up doors for us in such huge way. But I sleep better at night too. I care about the market and the economy and all this kind of stuff, but I'm not losing sleep over it.
No,
because there's just a peace of mind knowing that, you got all these, I mean, the way this model is set up to take care of us, and they allow us a lifestyle that we all thought we were going to get when we got into real estate, but just doesn't exist.
Yes, that's so true.
So anyway, well, good deal. Well, I appreciate your time, Jay. Seriously, congratulations on everything you've done, all your success. I know we got a long way to go. We're all in this thing together. So
you got it, man.
Guys. If you have any questions for either Jay or I, put them in the comments, whatever. We'll definitely get back to you. Hit the subscribe button there on the YouTube channel. Give us a couple likes. We definitely appreciate your time. So guys, have a great week. Jay, have a great Christmas coming up.
You too, man.
Enjoy your family. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. See you.